Dear learners, I am Christina Georgy, your academic counselor. Now let's move on to a brief sketch of the major characters of the novel Far from the Madding Crowd by Thomas Hardy. So here we'll be looking at the ways in which Hardy create and develop characters and how these characters reflect the realities of the period when this novel was written. That is, we will be looking at the ways in which Hardy has created and developed the major and minor characters in this novel and how these characters reflect the realities of the period. For that matter, you need to know what characterization means. What do you mean by characterization? Characterization is also an important aspect of a novel. Yesterday I mentioned the video in which the aspects of the novels are discussed. I hope you saw. If not, you may please refer to that. Characterization includes description of the physical features, the social status and the ideas, attitudes and behavior of the characters, their interactions with each other and their interaction with the outer world. So now let's move on to the major characters in this. So how many major characters are there? Yes, 4 major characters. For our study purpose, let's also consider Fanny Robin. Alright, so she'll also be included for your study purpose. Yes. So you will have to study the character analysis of Bathsheba, Gabriel, Troy, Bolwood and Fanny. So let's start off with the protagonist of this novel, Bathsheba Everdeen. So she is the orphaned daughter of a wealthy farm owner. She is raised by her aunt. The entire novel centers around Bathsheba. The plot, as we saw, progresses through her relationship with suitors. How many suitors are there? Yes, correct. And her final choice reflects her personal growth from the impulsive and headstrong woman that she was at the beginning to a mature woman who can manage her own emotions. So, when we meet Bathsheba towards the first half, or rather during the first half of the novel, she can be described as an impulsive and headstrong woman, right? But gradually, as the novel ends, she can be considered as a mature woman and she manages her emotions as well. So, Bathsheba is by far the best drawn and strongest female character seen in Hardy's work. Hardy shows her to be a strong and self-reliant woman. The only negative is that at times she makes very poor choices. She is a realistic character. These are the basic character or basic characteristic features of Bathsheba Everdeen. Remember that she is the protagonist. Initially she was impulsive and headstrong. Gradually she became a bit mature woman. And she is the best drawn portrayal of Hardy. She is the strongest female character of Hardy. She is a strong and self-reliant woman. She is also very realistic in nature. Now let's have a look at Gabriel Oak. So he is originally from Norcombe Hill and he comes to Weatherbury in search of job. So in fact he is an outsider to Weatherbury. One feature that stands out is that these people, that is the Weatherbury folks, often gossip and are skeptical about a woman deciding to manage her own farm. Here the woman in consideration is Bathsheba Everdeen, but Gabriel Oak a shepherd who was reasonably well off in his native place till the tragedy struck him, with the loss of his 200 sheep, suffers from no false pride. That is, he accepts a job under a woman without having any kind of shame. Remember, he was once well off. It is just because of the tragedy that he had to work as a shepherd, that too under a woman. Okay, that was something to gossip about for the people of Weatherbury, but to him it was no shame. He is humble and gentle, and he accepts Bathsheba's instant rejection of his marriage proposal also. His humility, unboastful character, and selflessness are in contrast with the boastful, self-centric Troy. So these two can be considered as if opposites. Alright, Troy is very boastful and self-centric, while our Gabriel Oak is an unboastful character. Oak is also a simple rustic shepherd from an obscure village, and thus he can be considered as if a contrast to the wealthy and complex farmer Bolwood. So here he can also be contrasted to Bolwood. Thus he is far removed from both the suitors of Bathsheba, that is Troy and Bolwood. Now let's move on to Sgt Francis Troy. So he is described as a handsome, dashing young soldier, charming to women and a pleasure seeker. It is said that he is not one of the Weatherbury types. That's because he feels superior to the country folks in Weatherbury. He is, in the eyes of the Weatherbury people, a hero who could tame Bathsheba. So he is not like Gabriel Oak, who is self-effacing and withdrawing by nature. He is also unlike Farmer Bolwood, who is strict nonsense type and who adheres to Christian morals. Bolwood has a congenital hatred for Sgt Troy. We see that towards the climax where Bolwood shoots Troy as well. So if Gabriel Oak, who ultimately proves successful, is the hero, Sgt Troy can be considered as the antagonist of the novel. What do you mean by the antagonist of the novel? That is the anti-hero, the villain to some extent. Alright, that is meant by the term antagonist. If in case we consider Oak as the hero, then Troy would be the anti-hero. Yes. Moving on to Farmer Bolwood. Bolwood is not actually a young man like Oak or Sgt Troy. He is said to be a middle-aged man. He is dignified and respectable in the society. He is a very respected farmer. He had never regarded marriage as a necessity, and for that matter, he had never really fallen in love. Yeah, he is kind and sympathetic towards the poor and the submissive, like Fanny Robin. He is a man with a kind heart, and he feels responsible for Fanny. Yes, his character undergoes change twice in the course of the novel. That is, from a stiff, almost a boring character to a passionate and obsessed lover, and later, when he is denied the fruition of his obsession, to a vengeful murderer. That is, at first he was more like a boring character. Later, love happened to him, and as a result, he became a jealous and passionate lover. And once his opportunity to marry his lady love was denied, he was overpowered with anger and vengeance. And finally, he became a murderer. How did he become a murderer? He killed Troy. Alright. So, shall we move on to Fanny Robin? Yes. So, she is not a full-fledged character. I would say she is more or less a minor character in this play, yet an important character. That is why we will be studying her also. Her appearance is limited to her meeting with Gabriel Oak on a gloomy winter evening. If interested, please to read the novel. It's very interesting. Alright, so both Bolwood and Bathsheba wonder whether the girl has disappeared, as they are not aware of her pathetic condition of pregnancy and destitution. Fanny Robin is a young and innocent girl, and she is taken in by the charming Sgt Troy. She is innocent, honest, plays a key role in the plot of the novel as well. So the rest of the characters who appear are the people of Weatherbury, mainly farm hands, employees of the farm owners. They include people such as D. Smallbury, Joseph Poorgrass, Caney Ball, Pennywise, Jan Cogan, etc. So these are all illiterate laborers and work manually in farms to earn their livelihood. The only pleasure they get is from their drink and gossip. Gossip was much prominent in the folks, or it was a prominent feature of the Weatherbury folks for that matter.